People say Borderlands are a sleepy kind of place, the kind of land a man can go to lose himself without a trace. The best thing that we can do down there is leave those stones unturned, 'cause if we awake the borderlands, the country, it may break into all three. There's no telling what will be, coming together on the dance floor at the Borderland Jubilee. Legend tells that beneath those hills sleeping giants lie, soaking in the afterglow from a distant long dead star. Best thing that we can do today is to let sleeping giants lie, 'cause if we awake the past again, the country, it may break into all three. There's no telling what will be, coming together on the dance floor at the Borderland Jubilee. There was a time, so it is said, when the line lay in the sand, and no one living here today know where that line can be found. Best thing we can do today is to let it rest in peace, 'cause if we awake the borderline, it will cut this land into all three. There's no telling what will be, coming together on the dance floor at the Borderland Jubilee. Coming together on the dance floor at the Borderland Jubilee. Coming together on the dance floor at the Borderland Jubilee. Well, that's an extract from the work that me and Dan are doing. It's based on the border between. In this particular case, we do a lot of work on borders, but this particular border is a border between Northern Ireland, and Southern Ireland. It's also the now European border too, between Europe and the United Kingdom, or effectively will be very soon. And over the past year or two, we've been looking at this border and approaching it in many different sort of ways, quite playful, really, sort of interactions, and looking at Ireland basically, or our kind of take on Ireland. Dan lives in Ireland, and I was born in Ireland in the north. Dan lives in Belfast, and I live in France now. And for anyone sort of brought up or living in Ireland or born in Ireland, there'll be a kind of probably a connection with America, with the States, Canada, places like that. And so this is sort of directly or indirectly the case with Dan and I, either just through cultural influences or in my case with family and so forth. So we've been looking at this connection between America and Ireland, and also because we've been asked to do this exhibition, which was postponed because of the COVID. At the time before the postponement of the exhibition, when we were all set to go out to Washington and to make the exhibition, this musical piece, in fact, was more of a computer audio piece, sound piece, and now we're trying to make it more of a kind of a musical, more of a folk or folk influence thing, with influences both from Irish music and or Celtic music and American music, and I hope that in a sense was felt in that piece there. The border is about 400 or 500 kilometers long, and the way we mapped or the way we approached it was to ask a friend who worked in the geography department in the university, one of the universities in Northern Ireland, to acquire the data, elevation data of the frontier, of the border. And he was very kind and did this for us, and gave us an elevation reading every 30 meters along the entire border, which we then took that data, and using software like Pure Data and things like that, we were able to transpose that into a kind of into music, basically into musical notes. But as you can imagine, when you do that, you get a very sort of almost just like frequencies going up and down, and it doesn't really sound musical. It sounds just like a kind of random rising and dropping of audio frequencies. So we then had to convert that into kind of musical keys, which we did. But even then, it tends to have a fairly sort of machine-like sound. So we used that, and Dan will have been using that in the film that he's been putting together. So you'll hear some of that. But over the last month or two, the last couple of months, we've been, it's mainly on my side. Dan's been working on the film, and a kind of bunching together what you might call a sort of collating or curating of things. And I've been focusing on on the musical side of actually trying to distill out of all of this numeracy of data, and it's a vast amount of data, musical notes. And as I'm sure you're aware, that there are only 7 musical notes, and so it's on one side it's quite simple, and on another side it's extremely difficult when you try to be faithful to the data. So the first piece of music that you heard there, that piece there, that follows as faithfully as I can the data. For example, if I have like here you've got what is it? That's A, B, B, A, B, B, D, F sharp. Now it's in the key of A minor, and it's also in the key of G as well, it's that's how the data lies. And you have to pick out between some data you let go, some data you keep, but you try as hard as you can or I try as hard as I can to keep to the data as it's prescribed. But clearly that's a kind of hopeless task, because in the end you do have to gerrymander the information a little bit, and that's very interesting with respect to the whole sort of notion of borders as well. They're constructed. Borders are constructed, gerrymandered. Borders often originally were following natural lines, but often there is a lot of political construction that goes on. In addition to that, I'm trying to incorporate songs, and that song that that I just played there, called the Borderland Jamboree, is a song that I wrote, which tries to look at the notion of the borderland as a sort of neutral territory, a territory where people don't want to think about the border, where people pass from each country freely within this space. It's like a buffer zone, a zone that, in a sense, by its very nature of being neutral, almost anything goes. It sort of like absorbs and sustains a kind of buffer between two different countries, and in a sense, and particularly in Northern Ireland or Southern Ireland or in Ireland, there's a large degree that the border just doesn't exist, and for many people who live in the borderland, and the sad thing is that as soon as it started to exist politically, trouble started to occur, so in this particular song, the whole idea is about not waking up the border. It's about allowing it to sleep, and not to be woken up. The reference to the dance floor is, as you will see in the other videos, is that or in the accompanying imagery that we've got on the website, that we made a dance floor. We made some kind of square wooden panels which are decorated with sort of abstractions of the border in Ireland, and also the border between America and Mexico, and the various states either that butt up against the border. And the idea of the dance floor was the dance floor being a kind of, we were thinking about flat footing and that type of sort of Appalachian dancing, but primarily the dance floor is a meeting place, a place where communities come together and share time together. They dance together. People dance together. So people that don't know each other or from families. The families may know each other, but the younger people may be the first time they meet, or complete strangers can, depending, I suppose, on the community, can enter and meet people. And so the dance floor becomes a place of meeting. So I use that metaphor in the song, both as a sort of, as the borderland, as being the dance floor. And in fact, in borderland areas, many communities travel from one town to another across the border to go to a dance. So that's the song. When we're going to try and make this into a record, a vinyl disc, and when this is done, we hope to have about 9 individual tracks. So that piece I just played there, not particularly well, I might add, because in fact it should be played very, very fast. It's an Irish jig, or it's in the style of an Irish jig, and it needs to be played very fast. And at the moment I'm just not up to speed well enough to play it fast, so either I will play it, or maybe I'll get somebody who's a better guitar player than me to play it. But it's intended to be played with other instruments as well. It's not just a guitar piece. The idea is that piece was Armagh and Louth. Louth is you've got, let's see now, I'm looking at the camera. You've got Armagh is above, and then you've got Louth underneath. Louth is in the south, Armagh is in the north. And the piece of music is running along the frontier between the two on that particular piece. But it's also, what is interesting about Borders is that they have 2 sides, and so the music runs in both directions, because the border is seen. When you're on the south side of the border, you would read the border from left to right, which would be, in this case, it would be from west to east. When you're on the north side of the border, you would read the border again from left to right, but it would be reversed. It would be east to west. So this is something that we use in the music. We've set the data to run both ways. So in fact, when I write the music, I take notes from both tracks, so to speak. This actually makes it easier for writing the piece, but also adds more colour, because it just gives more variety. But it's very. I always find that very interesting, that a border is, for example, on a border that's running, or a frontier that's running, say, north-south or south-north, the sun generally will rise on one side and set on the other side. And if you're living on the, for example, if you're living in Italy, the border in that case is to the west. So the sun sets on the border. And if you're living in France, on the other side of the border, the sun rises. And I often think that's quite an interesting thing, particularly with the notion of migration, as migration seems to, particularly European migration, and also, well, let's just keep it with that, it goes to the west. Okay, a lot of talking now.